All right, all right, all right. I want to first thank you again. I want to try to always remain grateful. And when it pops up into my head, I say it out loud. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're tuning in, even if you're only watching for a second, or if you've watched any of my other videos, gracias. Okay, so today I want to talk about resiliency. A long sought after quality, I would say. And maybe people don't really know what it means or have a different idea of what it actually is. Resiliency is not something that happens quickly. It's like a muscle. You have to kind of build it and work it out constantly in different ways to make sure that it's working for you. So what the hell is resiliency? If you guys have an idea of it, great. If you don't, great. Good or bad, I wrote my notes here so I can go from them. I think I'm doing much better when I write my notes down, and I can stay on track a little bit easier, so I'm going to keep doing that. Resiliency is, to me, the ability to bounce back. That's what I had written down. And then I looked up the actual definition, and it was very similar. The definition said that the capacity to recover, and I put in quotes, quickly, the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties or toughness. And so it is exactly that. It's your ability to bounce back. It's your ability to stand up the 8th time after you've been knocked down 7 times, right? We all know that quote. Get knocked down 7 times, stand up 8. So basic. But yeah, that is the idea of resiliency, is being able to bounce back, to get back up and continue to live your life after it shit on you, or after, you experience something that you didn't really hope to experience, something unpleasant, something really tough. The ability to heal, really, that's kind of what just came into my brain. And that's exactly what it is. When we don't have resiliency, we aren't really able to heal and to understand the bigger picture and to gain a lesson from a difficult situation. And to me, that's the entire premise of life, is to learn everything that we can learn, to level up, to become greater than the person that we were yesterday. And when I say greater, I really just mean more expansive, greater understanding, increased awareness, more mindful, more grateful. That to me is, what I'm talking about when I say greater than yesterday. So what do you think? Do you think resiliency is good or bad? And so one of my best friends was just here, Lean, and I asked her what she thought about it. So I'll share with you a little bit, of that. And I asked her if it was good or bad. And she said it could be both. And I asked her if it was bad, what would be bad about it? And she mentioned the idea that maybe if it's in a bad way, that maybe we're a little too tough. We have too tough of an exterior, and that we can't really let anything bother us, or we don't let anything bother us. We have a really hard shell. And I can definitely understand how it can look like that, because I'm thinking right now which I'm going to do another video on, is the difference between aggressive and assertive. They both kind of are parallel to each other, but have 2 separate nuances to them. There's just an undertone there that's a little bit different than the other one. And so when she mentioned that resiliency could be a bad thing in the sense that maybe it doesn't allow us to let anything in, I don't want to say she's wrong, because she's not wrong at all. But I would encourage her to expand, or if anybody else is thinking that, encourage you to expand your perception of that if somebody is so tough that they don't seemingly let anything in or anything bother them, how tough are they really? How tough of a person, or how brave are you if you don't step out of your comfort zone, if you don't let things that bother you come in? To me, that's pretty weak, because it is literally me saying, I don't, or I cannot let that thing in to bother me because I don't have the capacity to handle it. And so I must stay hard on the outside like a shield, and block all these things from coming into me, because God forbid if I let one of them enter, or if I feel one of these feelings, or if I accept this alternative truth, I'm not going to survive it. It's going to break me. I'm going to, in a dramatic fashion, I'm going to die. So if you have the idea that resiliency is not for you, I would invite you to accept some of that in your life. Or if you are one of those people that really keep a tough exterior, which in a sense, if you think about it, that's what bullies do. They stay as tough as possible because, God forbid, they let anybody in, that can poke them where it hurts. They will falter. They will, you will see that they actually do have emotions. And I always say that bullies need the most love because they're constantly shielding themselves from it. If you refuse to let anything bad in, you're also refusing to let anything good in. It's kind of impossible to completely navigate both of those channels of energy and to say, well, I'm only going to let the good things in and the things that I think are useful to me, and that will benefit me and will feel good, because, those are obviously things that I want in my life and I understand. And I'm not going to let these other things in that are pissing me off or frustrating me or aggravating me or making me angry, or are upsetting me. That to me is a very weak-minded, weak-willed, low resiliency type of person, because you are literally believing that in a false sense of strength. You're sitting on an empty throne. You're taking too much pride in your comfort zone. And I've said it before, your comfort zone will kill you. And no growth happens from your comfort zone. A lot of us can agree with that concept. And so when we're in our comfort zone, there's no resiliency testing going on. We're in this day and age, and I know so many people can agree with me on this because I've talked to so many people about it. This whole day and age of participation trophies, this is killing, absolutely murdering the resiliency of our youth. Everybody gets a trophy for participating. What the fuck is the point of trying hard to win then? And now don't get confused and go black and white with that and say, well, don't breed an over competitive culture. That is not what I'm saying at all. But I'm saying, winning is not the most important thing, but understanding that if you're going to put a lot of energy and effort and practice into something, you would hope to be rewarded by it, and not necessarily with a trophy, but, with the idea that your work didn't go unrecognized or, unfounded, if that makes sense. It's that we want to be able to gain something from the work that we're putting into something. Otherwise, what would be the point of putting work in? That doesn't make sense, right? So this is the idea. This whole participation trophy generation is absolutely lacking resiliency, in my opinion, 10,000%. It's not gained by living in your comfort zone, by allowing things to remain easy peasy, by coddling. Tough love is a resilient type of communication and behaviors. Coddling is, don't let me get too off track here, but it creates a bigger comfort zone and encourages you to stay there. And again, no growth happens from your comfort zone. You have to be uncomfortable to be able to grow. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not even going to go into a long-winded explanation of that. And so the ability to bounce back, yes. So how do we get it? I wrote down, how do we get it? How do you gain resiliency? In my opinion, We gain resiliency by being disappointed, by creating expectations and having them shattered, by getting told no, by showing tough love and giving and having tough love given to us, by not getting everything we want, by experiencing disappointment, but also unhappiness, not having everything work out the way that you hoped it would. These are all the kind of things, and this doesn't sound like fun at all, so this might explain to you why a lot of people aren't, I can't say a lot of people, but why people are not really resilient in all the ways that they can be. Now, and that's not to say that you can't be resilient in one area of your life and not another, although that's a little tough to juggle forever and ever, amen, but it can be done. You can have a certain level of resiliency, you know, in work and not so much in a relationship, a personal relationship or something like that. So how do we get it? Well, I kind of answered that already, but I'll keep going. I just had to look at my notes. Yeah, by experiencing disappointment. And when we avoid disappointment by avoiding having tough conversations, by avoiding setting boundaries, by avoiding our own tough love or accepting tough love from someone, you know, we're avoiding a really, really valuable lesson, something that's going to help us actually feel stronger. The same quote that I mentioned in a couple videos previous to this one, smooth seas never made a skilled sailor. You don't become great at something by having everything work out perfectly for you and go well. It's like anything that you do. I'm thinking like right now, like skateboarding or surfing. If you fall off the board or if you don't, you know, get your trick the first couple times you try it and you give up, you will feel a sense of internal weakness. And when somebody mentions something that brings that feeling up for you, you're going to immediately pull out your defense mechanisms and start taking shit personal. And so that's kind of the consequence of not allowing yourself to build any resiliency, is being offended by everything, which I think a lot of people can agree with me. We're in that day and age right now where you can't say anything where somebody doesn't say, well, that was racist, or well, that was ignorant, or that you're a bigot, or, you know, just everybody's got something to say about fucking everything right now. And this to me has been a long time coming. It's been in the form of when we get too many options and we get too many choices, you know, we start to deem others wrong. And I'm not saying that anybody is right or wrong. I'm just saying that you can believe whatever you want to believe, but that doesn't have to come at the cost of you trying to disprove anybody else's theories or, you know, prove anyone else wrong in their understanding so that you can feel like you're right. Feelings are not facts at all. So don't get tricked by those little fuckers. Because they come and go, and you might feel one way about a certain situation today, and you're going to feel completely different about it 3 months from now, based on, you know, the understanding that you've gained about whatever the hell that situation is regarding. So don't, you know, sink into the feeling of whatever it is that you're going through to determine whether you are right or wrong in doing these things or saying these things or experiencing whatever you're experiencing. Just flow through it. Let it go through you. I always like to say feelings are like children. You don't want them stuffed in the trunk, but you don't want them driving the car either. You want them somewhere where they're managed, right in the middle, strapped in safely, where you can look at them through the rear view mirror, you know, but they're also not bouncing around the car. You don't have them stuffed down somewhere so that you forget they're there in the first place, and you start to, you know, just drive merrily along as if you're hot stuff, but your feelings are stuffed all the way down inside. Because God forbid if you let them out, you won't be able to control them, right? That is what a lack of resiliency is. So there is such thing as emotional resiliency, and it's built on disappointment. and allowing yourself to formulate a greater understanding of why this disappointment came for you. Because it didn't happen to you, it's happening for you. And that right there, that concept can help us build resiliency a lot. The universe is happening for us, not to us. These things are all happening to allow us to learn whatever lessons we need to learn to be able to level up as a human being in this lifetime, to become the best you that you can be. But again, smooth seas never made a skilled sailor. So if you don't go through hard times, one, you're never going to be able to appreciate the best times or the good times. And two, you're not going to be able to know how to navigate these strong feelings that come with disappointment and sadness and regret and anger and all this other crap stuff that we don't want to experience in our lives, because who wants to experience that? Nobody really. But if you're afraid of them because you're afraid they're going to sink you down like quicksand, you're not that strong of a person. And if you're offended by me just saying that, take a look at that. You probably could afford to build some resiliency. How do we avoid it? Oh, just answered all those questions. Okay. What things kill it? I wrote in parentheses, comfort zone. And that's just it. To me, allowing yourself to stay in your comfort zone and kind of sit on this empty throne of like, you know, I can't say like nothing bad happens to you, but if you're just like dodging things left and right, you know, it's like, what are you really dodging here? Like you're tricking yourself out of your own growth by telling yourself that you don't deserve to feel all these ill feelings that are coming with whatever you're experiencing. If you don't deserve the ill feelings, you don't deserve the good feelings either. If you don't want to feel, you're not going to feel anything. I know that sounded really basic, but that's what I got right now. What does it feel like? What does resiliency feel like? What does building it feel like? What does avoiding it feel like? Anxiety, right? I talked about this in my last video, and this whole anxious culture that we have now, we're all more anxious than ever. And this to me is a lack of resiliency. We are so afraid of experiencing things that jack up our level of anxiety because, oh God, I'm going to have a panic attack, or oh my God, my anxiety makes me sweat or makes my heart race or my brain, you know, all foggy and crazy, and it makes me lash out. Your anxiety doesn't make you do that. You choose to do that by avoiding what your anxiety is trying to teach you. Sink into it. Say hello to it. Shake hands with it. Touch it. Lick it. Hug it. Whatever you got to do. But as long as you're running from it, it is going to continue to control you, because you are not allowing yourself to take a look at what it really is, dissect it, and say, what the hell am I so afraid of about this? And once you do, yeah, it's messy, but that's what it is. You get a little messy, and then you clean yourself up. And once you do that, how proud of yourself are you for picking yourself back up off the floor? Right? We go back to the same quote I said in the beginning, this basic ass, this quote, fall down 7 times, stand up 8. If you're not the one picking yourself off the floor, you're never going to know your true strength. You're never going to believe in yourself to build resiliency, to go through tough stuff and get yourself through it. If we're always constantly seeking someone else or something else, a medication, a drug, another person, a codependent relationship. I can't live without you. Yes, you can. You did before, and you can do it again. But as long as you're telling yourself that you can't, you're right. Man, this is making me sweat. It's exciting. Okay, buoyancy. So that I kind of think of resiliency like buoyancy, being able to float and kind of just like bob through things. And what's the opposite of buoyancy? I don't really know the word for that, but I just wrote sink. Sink, to sink. If you're not buoyant, you will sink. You will not float, you will sink. And so that's, to me, kind of what I understand a lot of people with a lot of fears about feeling crazy feelings or stressful feelings or anxiety, for lack of a better term, because everybody can relate to that. If you are afraid of going there with yourself, I understand a lot of people feel like they're drowning, right, in their anxiety, like it's suffocating them and it's pulling them down, and they just can't seem to, get to the surface to get a breath and keep your head above water, and you're furiously, flapping and flailing and doggy paddling to try to just get a breath. And, for God's sake, just give me a break kind of idea. We get this notion in our head that we're being punished, or that somebody else is like laughing at our demise or at our struggles. And I would urge, if that's something that you go through and you experience that, I would urge you to reconsider your own position and your own responsibility for allowing yourself to float. Think about floating. How, if you've never done it, it's actually quite easy. But as long as you're constantly flapping and flailing and, and thinking about, the fact that your whole body's not floating, but just your face is floating and the rest of you is sinking, you're being too critical, too judgmental of every single move you're making. And the more you move around, the harder you make it for yourself. So just sit, just float there and let these things keep you afloat, and find out what they are, because they're good, bad, and indifferent things. I don't know if that made sense, but I think it did. And so, yeah, the whole back to buoyancy / or sinking. Resiliency is buoyancy. When we have resiliency, we have the ability to just kind of float through life, to not drown in our problems, not drown in our anxiety and our depression, and not drown in our feelings. We're able to just kind of float through these things, allow these things to float through us, and recognize, what's helpful to hold on to and dissect, and what's helpful to just let go of. Because there's more strength in letting go than holding on. For anybody that's ever broken up with somebody or left a job or said something really tough to someone, like having a difficult conversation, ending things, or anything like that, it's not easy to let go. And it's seemingly a lot easier to hold on, because we can pull on all these excuses to justify why we should continue to hold on to these things. But because the thought of letting it go and letting it just float away and be gone forever is the scariest thing ever. So to me, yes, it does require more strength to let go than to hold on. And so let go so that you can float, because if you're holding on, you're just going to sink with all of these mental responsibilities you just put on yourself. Exercise building resiliency. Absolutely. Physical exercise does build resiliency, because in my experience, building strength physically requires building strength mentally. It doesn't feel good to build muscle because it hurts. It's one, it's sweaty, and two, it's painful. You get fatigued, you get exhausted, you're sore. It's just really tough. If you've ever done a workout or gone running or done anything physically exhausting, you know what I'm talking about. It doesn't really feel good while you're going through it. And the best part of this is, or to me, the most substantial part of that was allowing myself to dig deep into my mental toughness and not give up when the going got tough. When it starts to really stress you out or fatigue you, or it's burning your legs to do, this wall sit or these squats or whatever the hell you're doing, that's what's building the muscle. You have to break it down so that it can rebuild itself even tougher. And so if you don't allow yourself to break down, then you don't allow yourself to rebuild yourself based on what you want to rebuild yourself with, not what somebody else told you to build yourself up with. And then I'm thinking kind of like childhood stuff or old relationships, emotionally abusive relationships, mental abuse. When you tell somebody something long enough, they start to believe it. But what do you believe? What do you want to say about yourself? So yes, a physical exercise does build resiliency. And so if you don't know how to build emotional or mental resiliency for yourself right now, try exercising, try getting out there and see just how much mental toughness it takes to build physical strength. You have to force yourself to push through the soreness day in and day out to make sure that you're not letting yourself get off track, and be lazy just because it hurts. Don't shy away from it. These things are here to teach us how tough we can actually be. And when you give up after 2 days of, working out because, oh my God, I'm just so sore, it's too hard. Well, then you're also probably easily manipulated. You probably take offense to a lot of things. You probably take shit personal that doesn't have anything to do with you at all. And that's funny to me because I just had this thought that when we take shit personal or we take, offense to things that don't have anything to do with us, that's like a subconscious attempt at ours to learn emotional resiliency. So we're shitting on ourselves in the hopes of maybe building resiliency, but it's like an ass backwards concept. If you're going to shit on yourself or take offense to something that doesn't have anything to do with you, what the hell are you doing it for? Why are you taking in, that something that doesn't have anything to do with you? Why are you taking a personal account of someone else's shit or what someone else is saying? If it's not your own experience and you're not your own feelings, then why are you taking it on? Maybe it's to encourage your anxiety, to continue to give you an excuse to not do the tough work and to try to get people to take it easy on you and don't be so mean, don't be so tough. Stop being so hard on yourself. Get out of your own way. Desire to control. That's not good for resiliency. Because if we do have a desire to control, we usually tend to only look at the things that we know what we're doing with. We stay away from the things that are unfamiliar to us. We stay away from things that are feeling awkward or goofy for us because we're just not good at it. And so when you only do things like that, or that you're in control of, or that you'll have a better chance at doing okay with because you can control the situation or how this person responds to you or engages with you. FYI, that's your comfort zone, and get the fuck out because it's not doing you any type of favor at all other than building up your hollow throne of strength, which is what I will refer to it as. Oh, I did write a little thing down of what does resiliency look like. Not taking offense to a lot of things, being able to understand that these things that are poking at you are something for you to look at, that are going to teach you how to expand your perception so that you have an increased sense of understanding and awareness about whatever the hell this thing is that's happening in your life. Even if it's a person or a situation or a feeling, whatever it is that's poking at you and making you kind of feel like you're second guessing yourself or like you're weak or it angers you or aggravates you, frustrates you, makes you sad, mad, jealous. All these things are there to teach us how to be more emotionally resilient, how to be stronger in nature, so that we don't get knocked down by the slightest breeze of disagreement. Thinking positively and critically. When we are resilient, we are zooming out. We're taking a look at the bigger picture. We're not so focused on the finite details of, well, he said this and she said this and blah, blah, blah. It's fucking whatever. It's all there to teach you how to become the best you. Not taking on other people's feelings is what resiliency looks like. Seeing where your feelings begin and end and what you're all about. And just because somebody else feels strongly about something and they're venting to you maybe, and they're kind of subconsciously hoping that you catch their vibe and tune in and agree with them because they are so in an upheaval about it. You don't need to take that on if that's not how you feel about it. Be resilient enough to say, all right, well, I'm sorry that you feel that way about it, but I see it differently, and this is how I see it, and this is how I feel about it. And if it's completely different than how they feel about it, your resiliency is going to be built on, one, setting that boundary that you just set, because that is a boundary that you just set, and two, to understand that you don't need to take on the energy of everything else around you in order to feel okay with what's happening. That once you do that and you say that and you set that boundary and you identify the difference there of who you are and who they are, that you're entitled to your own thoughts and feelings, you're gonna feel like that's the only way I can kind of explain that. Just like you're gonna be able to like beat on your chest and you're gonna feel really proud inside, almost, I feel like I'm glowing when I do that. And you also encourage people to step out of their simple-minded or narrow-minded mindset. If they do this to you to expect you to match their energy and agree with what they're saying about this situation or this person, and you don't do it, you're no longer enabling them to feel like they're in control of you. Because that's what they do. These bullies, the emotional bullies, they try to be so big and bad with their experiences and their feelings and their intentions and their thoughts that they feel like if they are maybe pressuring you enough to agree, and you do, you enable them to continue to be that emotional, mental bully. Stop it. Or don't, and see what your consequence is. Maybe try that in case you're disagreeing with me right now. And setting boundaries. Okay, so I did talk about that already. I'm on a roll. Yes, it's a sign of strength from within. It means, so resiliency, yes, it's a sign of strength from within. It's a sign of emotional strength, mental strength, physical strength, spiritual strength, understanding that life doesn't have to be all peas and carrots for us to be happy, that we can find the good and the bad, because one cannot exist without the other, and we can't truly appreciate the good times without having bad times attached to them, or stemming from them, or whatever it might be. Like, I'm thinking of the lotus flower, how they say it has to grow through the mud and the dirty water to get through the top and be this beautiful flower that opens up wide. We are the same way. If we don't go through the crap, we're not going to be able to be as beautiful and as full as we can possibly be, because we half-assed our growth process and we didn't learn everything we needed to learn in order to continue to manage and take personal responsibility for our life here on out. We're missing certain pieces. So ask yourself where you can allow yourself to kind of dip into things that you're not so keen on dipping into, and see what you're so afraid of. Because I guarantee you, your brain is telling you it's a lot scarier than it actually is, and it's tricking you into not accessing that part of you so that you don't build up this internal strength. Because anxiety does want to rule. It does want to control you. And so it's not a matter of controlling it. It's a matter of learning how to hold its hand and walk side by side with it so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming that you don't have a choice whenever you feel it. Give yourself the option of choice by allowing yourself to see what the hell it's all about. It's not as bad as you think. Okay, I did it. That was it. Thank you for listening. I hope this was very helpful for anybody, somebody, everybody. Stay tuned for some more. Thank you.